Hi, good afternoon. Want to welcome all of you to the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. This is the college president's public lecture, and we want to begin. We want to begin with an opening prayer from Dr. Lebene Fiakbonu. She's a physician specialist. Please, let's do it better for her.
Thank you. Shall we bow our heads in prayer? Almighty Father, we thank you for a gathering like this on a day like this. We thank you that you've given us life and strength and brought us together to discuss this very important topic. You are the source of all wisdom, so we ask that you take center stage, you direct affairs, you be with us, and make this a very instructive and impactful public lecture. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Lebene. At this point, I'm sure you are wondering, why are we here? Why are we gathered here? What is the reason for this afternoon's gathering? To do us the honors of telling us why we are here and welcoming us officially is a former faculty chair for the Faculty of Public Health, Dr. Delano Duvlo. We want to welcome him upstage with a clap. Please, you need to make your clap as tall as he is. Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arthur. And thank you all for coming. Thank you for the introduction. The idea is to give a gist of why we are here. I think you all understand that it's the President's public lecture, but I've been part of the background of getting here, which started as a discussion around the new developments that are impacting health and what we could do to be part of those discussions. It's also because, not that I know too much about AI, but I do remember when the first computer appeared at the Ministry of Health around 1980 something. It was a beautiful machine that we used mostly to look at and admire. And when you switched it on, it had this beautiful message. Good morning, Director of Medical Services. It did very little else. Subsequently, other computers came in. I don't think anybody remembers the 5¼ inch floppy disks that we used at that time, but I had used them before, and I'm sure a number of the senior colleagues here have. But things have evolved so much since then. And it's, thank you. It's gotten to the point where so much is automated, and this has certain implications for healthcare. And we in the Faculty of Public Health, I'm the ex-chair of the faculty, after a conversation with a good friend about somebody who was doing a lot of work of Ghanaian origin, will be introduced later, on this subject of AI in the US, we decided that's an opportunity to have a discussion around this. And so we brought that to the attention of the rector, who then took us to the public lecture committee, and a bit of a short time to do this, but we agreed that it was worth doing, and so we put the burden on ourselves to get it started as soon as possible. I expect that people have different ideas as to what they're going to get out of this. Do we ever have to visit doctors again? For those of us who run programs and mark papers, Can AI mark the examination papers for us without having to go through? Some of the handwritings are terrible, I can assure you, and it takes a lot of trouble. I'm quite certain it can read those handwritings too. So we want to see what dimensions are possible and what help it can give to us. The younger ones, still in the depth of practice, and those of us about to step out from the arena as well, to understand what this newfangled idea means and how we can make the most out of it. So let me welcome you, everybody, on behalf of the college, on behalf of the Faculty of Public Health, on behalf of the president and the senior staff members of the college. I see the chairman of council is also here. And I hope we all have a very stimulating discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Duvlo. Maybe you can clap as tall as he is again. An occasion like this definitely deserves a chairman to chair the occasion. We have a member of the Faculty of Public Health and the Municipal Director of Health Services, Ayawaso West. And she goes by the name Dr. Louisa Mate. She will do us the honors of introducing the chairman for this occasion. Please, let's clap well for her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon once again. Right. It's a pleasure to introduce to you the August chairperson for today's event. He is a professor of surgery and the founding head, Department of Surgery of the School of Medical Sciences, University of Cape Coast. He is currently the president of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. Prior to becoming the president of the college, he served as secretary, chairman of the faculty, and vice president of the Division of Surgeons of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. He holds the fellowship of several societies and institutions, including the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, West African College of Surgeons, Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh and England, International College of Surgeons, and the Royal Society of Medicine. He has also previously held the position of president of the Ghana Surgical Society. After securing the final Part 2 fellowship of the West African College of Surgeons, he proceeded to the UK and rotated through hospitals in London and Middlesbrough for his fellowships. He settled in the Northeast and worked in Sutherland, Newcastle, before taking up the position of consultant general surgeon to Durham and Darlington Acute NHS Trust. He has held this position for so long. As a matter of fact, he held the position for 10 years before returning back home to Ghana to start the surgical department at the University of Cape Coast. He is the past president of the Ghana Doctors and Dentists Association of the United Kingdom and has served as chairman for the Black Minority and Ethnic and Ghanaian Union, both in the Teesside. His research interests include general and colorectal surgery, trauma and laparoscopic surgery, body image, and medical education, and currently has 51 publications in these areas of interest. He has served on several university committees, as well as other public and private ones. In his current capacity as president of the college, he is driven by the following mission: to use his long institutional memory of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons to expedite action to improve ongoing curricular changes in the areas of pathways to the fellowship programs, supervisory roles, and introduction of computerized workplace-based assessment tools. He also wishes to leverage on the college's unsurpassed expertise in all aspects of medicine to act as national lead advocates in all matters of health and healthcare. He also wishes to enhance and strengthen the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons governance systems and quality improvement tools. He has and wishes to have a critical look at the welfare and health needs of fellows. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, let's welcome the current president of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, Professor Samuel Akobia Yaodebra. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lisa, for those kind words. I think I've reached the stage in life where I need these peripherals to help. I will use abbreviated protocol and simply say, Chairman of Council, Fellows of Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Dovlo has so eloquently expressed the purpose of this afternoon's gathering. A brave new world is unraveling before us now, which has the potential to transform our lives far beyond what we currently know. It is imperative that we become involved in shaping our inevitable common destiny. We have no choice. Today's lecture topic has been chosen to reflect the inauguration also of a new event on the college's calendar. That is the Presidential Lecture Series. These will involve broad conversations of topics of fellows' mutual interests and position papers on matters of health, as the college has experts in all areas of health care. It will act as a lead advocate in health, education, and information. It will harness the knowledge, skills, and expertise of the constituents of the Association of Fellows of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, and equal help with their education. The lectures are meant to inspire policy change, thereby helping improve healthcare delivery. I am looking forward to this afternoon's lectures on the topic AI, artificial intelligence in medicine, now and the future, because I know it's going to usher us to the exciting, brave new world of tomorrow. And I bid all of you welcome and accept the easy responsibility of chairing. Thank you very much.
I think you can do it better than that. So thank you, Prof. Deborah, and thank you, Louisa, also for introducing our chairman. We are about to delve right into the meal. And to introduce our speakers this afternoon is a consultant or professor of plastic and reconstructive surgery in KNUST and Confanochi Teaching Hospital. He's a vice president of the Division of Surgeons for the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons. He's also a former chair and chief examiner for the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, Faculty of Surgery and Subspecialties. In our midst to introduce our speakers, Professor Pius Agbenoku.
Thank you very much, MC. Our president, the chairman for today's event, and the council chairman, a past rector present here, and current rector, Professor Danu. I once again welcome all of you to this meeting, and I'm privileged to introduce the speakers for the two lectures, for the lectures we're going to have. Just a brief introduction. Our lectures are in two sections. The first speaker will deal on general overview of how artificial intelligence, that's AI tools work. And also the same person will speak on the future considerations of how AI can be used to improve healthcare. I'd like to introduce the speaker for the first part. The speaker is a pediatrician, an endocrinologist, and a biomedical scientist at the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Her research centers around enhancing communication in the electronic health record, that's EHR, system through documentation, voice technology, and exploring generative AI pathways for clinical summaries utilizing ERL metadata. Our speaker is regularly involved in research work, which include in-depth evaluation of large language models. Large language models, I'm sure we're going to hear more about these things in the presentation. In informatics queries and for clinical reasoning. The speaker is an active leader in academic discussions on the emerging use cases for LLMS, collaborating closely with the VUMC Health IT. Our speaker aims to streamline data capture, improve information accessibility for patients, and facilitate seamless collaboration among healthcare professionals. She is clinically active and does supervision for trainees or fellows in pediatric endocrine. She also sees her own patients who affectionately call her simple Dr. Yaa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Yaa Kumah-Crystal, who will lead us. I think you're very good. I introduce you, speak the letter, I introduce the other person. Very good. Come on. Please, thank you very much. Thank you. Let's see the.
All right, thank you. Please put your hands together for Prof. All right, so we want to humbly ask our panel to so and see the screen, and then we'll bring you back. We'll bring you back after. Please, let's put a for our panel. Please, you can. They say the more you clap, more years you add to your age. Thank you very much, Dr. Yaa.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a delight and honor to be here. I'm particularly excited to see faces, the faces of the future. So hopefully you can help us emerging adults keep up with all this technology. So my name is Yaa Kumah-Crystal. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist and biomedical informaticist in Vanderbilt, Nashville, Tennessee. So I take care of children that have different medical conditions, and they're going to be sharing my slides soon. The main conditions I particularly see include diabetes and other hormone problems with endocrinopathies. Because you have a technology presentation, add technology. Okay, so we are sharing. Can you see my slides? Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is Nashville, Tennessee. This is our Vanderbilt campus, and I see a wide array of patients, but in addition to seeing patients, I have the privilege of being a researcher in the informatics department, where I get to look at how we can use computer science methods and techniques to improve how we take care of patients. And I was delighted to be traveling here with my family to Ghana to visit you all, because shortly after I was having the presentation and putting together the slides, my father sent me an article from the International Monetary Fund saying that Ghana is among the emerging market economies that are most poised to adopt AI. So the criteria was based on digital infrastructure, human capital, labor practices, innovation, integration, and regulation. And of 56 emerging markets, Ghana placed third. So you guys, again, the future, are well positioned for this talk today. So before I start, I always get a sense of who my audience is. So this is a general poll. It's not IRB approved or anything, but who here has ever heard of the tool ChatGPT? So just show of hands. Okay. And who has ever used ChatGPT? Excellent. And to redisplay. While we're doing that, let's find out who here would consider themselves a techno-optimist. So someone who is optimistic the way technology is looking, the possibilities we have with the new emerging tech. Okay. And who here considers themselves more skeptical? A little wary of technology and the potential harms it might bring if we don't consider deploying it practically. Excellent. All right. Let me ask my technical support if we're able to get the slides back on. All right. Well, I can keep going. There's a bit of audiovisual to the component, but I have more than enough content without. So when we think about artificial intelligence, most people have reasonable concerns based on a lot of things we've seen in media and in literature and the books we've read about how an emerging intelligence that is superior to ours can undermine the work we're doing. Let's see if I can get those slides back. Hello, technical support. Are we able to get the slides back on? 2 minutes. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll just continue. So with artificial intelligence, one of the main concerns are if we have something that's a very powerful tool and we're not able to keep up with the things that it's able to do, is there a chance that it may become more intelligent than us and potentially lead to harms? Not necessarily just in the version where everything becomes the Terminator, it comes after us, but can people who are unscrupulous use some of these tools to trick us, to do fraud, to do deepfakes, etc.? And what we're trying to understand in medicine is how can we actually not for some of the negative outcomes, but stay prepared to anticipate what these tools might bring, but additionally use them to help deliver care in a very practical and reasonable and safe way. And we'll see if there are any additional slides up here. So over a year ago, this was November 20th, 2022, a gentleman named Sam Altman sent a tweet that says, "We've released a new tool called ChatGPT, and you can check it out here." Since then, ChatGPT has become the most highly adopted application in the shortest amount of time. And the question is, why is this tool so interesting to people? What has been the intrigue, and why are people flooding to use this new ChatGPT tool? Well, ChatGPT, let's even talk what it's about. G, the abbreviation, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So generative means this tool has the ability to generate, to create new information. So it's trained on a vast amount of knowledge on the internet. And it's pre-trained on all this, and you can ask it questions, and it can generate information back to let you know what the information you're asking for. Now, this is unique because never have we before had access to information in this way. We've always had the internet, certainly. We've had books, certainly. But in order to be able to interact with this, you use natural language. You ask it questions, you use words, and it gives you the resources back exactly in the same form as you've requested it. Let's see if I can get signed back on here. So for example, I could ask it a simple question such as, what is the best treatment for someone who's having chest pain? And it wouldn't just point me to an article. It wouldn't just a Wikipedia entry. It would actually break down the information and give references about the current leading recommendations. So let's see if I can get the link here. Wi-Fi. Oh, meeting ID or the meeting code? Okay. Starting. Join a meeting. And the meeting code here, 706. Join. Meeting passcode. This one here. All right, while we're doing this, we can continue to talk about these tools. So raise your hand again if you've ever used ChatGPT. Okay, see if you've, and mostly here in the young audience. What have you used this for? Give me one. Help you study for a test. Yes? And have you ever used it to help you write an email or write a paper. Okay, these are just a few examples of how versatile this tool can be. Let me see if I can go ahead and share. So, I hear they say third time's the charm, so let's try this time. All right, so we talked about how Ghana is one of the emerging markets for artificial intelligence. And we how many of you, particularly the youth, are generally optimistic. And we talked about how some of you are a little more suspicious and skeptic and may even be convinced we live in a simulation. Because what most people think about when they hear artificial intelligence are certainly inevitable doom. But instead of thinking about artificial intelligence, I suggest we expand the definition to say augmented intelligence. So how can these tools potentially help us get our work done? So regarding hype with ChatGPT, this was when Mr. Altman had sent out the tweet, and then things exploded. And some of you've heard of it, some of you've tried it, some of you've heard it, have not tried it, but certainly understand that there's kind of a drumbeat. There's something going on, there's something interesting we need to pay attention to. So we talked about the definition and what it means, but essentially this is a tool that can mimic human reasoning and give plausible answers to what's going on. So it's considered a large language model. What does that mean? It's a model based on nodes and vectors. And my esteemed colleague is going to talk a little bit more about that. But essentially, it can predict the next word in a sequence to give back responses to answer questions that's placed to it. We already had some students here saying this has been helpful studying for exams and writing papers. So it takes all this information that it knows and understands about human condition, human words, the way we structure sentences, and can reiterate that back. So why does this matter? Well, this is the easiest ever been to interact with computers on a human level. Essentially, you have this concept of bespoke information driven economy. There's differential access to resources, including knowledge. Knowledge is a resource. But because there's differential access to resource, that creates gaps. And we have haves and have-nots, and the have-nots might necessarily be able to get access to the knowledge they need at the time they need it. And expertise takes time to cultivate. They can tell you that. They're the students. You can tell them that because you're the teachers. It takes a while to get people to a place where they're able to communicate back with enough experience to tell someone how to get to a better health state. But what if knowledge was not a scarcity? The questions that we're trying to ask at Vanderbilt and then the informatics department is, can large language models be a reliable and trustworthy source of information to supplement physician care? So, an example. So guidance to patients at home and guidance to parents at home. This is ChatGPT. This is the very basic interface. You log on and you're greeted with this chatbot. We've all used chatbots before. Mostly they've been not great experiences where you'll type in something, it'll give you something back. It wasn't necessarily what you were asking for, but this is a little different because the chatbots of the previous generation were called deterministic, which means someone very hardworking thought, what are all the potential questions someone could ask about customer help? And pre-coded all those questions in there and came up with all the answers they thought. But if it had an edge, a rare question that someone hadn't thought of, then it would error. It would just give you something unhelpful and became very frustrating. Tools, it's not prescribed. The information that it returns back to you it puts together, it generates, that's the G, the GPT, in order to answer the questions that you have. So in this example, let's say I'm a parent, have a sick child. I don't have easy access to a doctor I can call to get information. So maybe I can open a tool like ChatGPT to ask a question. So in this case, I asked, I cannot get my son to take his medicine, what can I do? And ChatGPT, pulling together the wealth of information from the internet, answers me back. It says, I'm sorry to hear you're having trouble with your son's medication. So the chatbot is sorry for me. It's empathetic. It's thinking about my feelings. And then it's giving me some things I can try. It says, explain the importance of the medication, try some flavor compounding, use the reward system. Apparently it understands human psychology. It says, give a choice of administration, maybe practice with a favorite toy. So it's giving me all these potential things I can try and techniques to answer my very specific question. Now, I could have gone to Google to say, like, how to get a child to take medicine, and I would have found the article eventually. But here I can chat, and chat not with a deterministic tool, but with a tool that can give me back the answer specifically what I wanted. And it remembers what we were talking about. So I can ask a follow-up question. I can say, well, he took the medication, but now he has a rash. What do I do? And this is just a picture I found on the internet. But not only can it answer back, but it can see. I can send it an image, and it can analyze the image that it sees and give me feedback based on what it sees. So it says, based on the rash you prepare, it looks to be hives. And that's correct. I tried different rashes, and I didn't throw it. The knowledge it has, the data sets it's been trained on, has that information in place. And that tells me the different steps I should take. Step one, it said, stop the medication. We'll talk about that. It says, contact a healthcare provider, consider allergy medication, cold compress, loose fitting clothes, and then monitor for symptoms. And I'm like, well, that's pretty good. That's reasonable information. Except for the very first step, it says, stop the medication. One of the questions we have to ask is, do we want these tools to be giving medical advice? Now, this is just regular ChatGPT. This isn't Vanderbilt built or anything. This is a tool that anyone can log onto the internet for. And these are the things that we need to understand, because this is available right now today to your patients, to you. And you can ask it a follow-up question. I said, well, what kind of medications can I give? And it says hydrocortisone, calamine lotion, antihistamines. It even specifically suggested Zyrtec, which is a popular one. And that's interesting as well. I vet information, and it's true. It's accurate. But it's odd and interesting that this freely available tool on the internet can give me such specific information to answer the questions that I had. Again, this is information you can find with sleuthing, but now I'm just having a regular conversation. And then I said, well, now I want to actually escalate. I want to call my son's doctor to get more information. What question should I ask him? And this is where, my fellow physicians, this could be an extremely helpful tool. By helping our patients prepare to think through what information they can communicate with us so that we can help them. The majority of what we do in medicine and health is gathering a history to put together the clues to help someone achieve a better state of health. So if we can cue people in on the questions they should be asking, then we can help them get better sooner. And that's one of the initiatives we're working on exactly, is if a patient is sending a patient message or testing information to ask about how they should proceed with their health, asking follow-up information so we can get more context so that when they do see us, when they ask us the full question, we'll be more prepared to take care of them. So, in addition to being able to read the rash picture, it can also read text from documents. So, we have a lot of things that are digital, but we still have a good amount of medical notes that are paper and handwritten. And we have things that we scan all the time. This is an example of an EKG that I obtained. And I asked it, I just uploaded the picture. I said, what does this say? And it says, this is an EKG, and these are the details. This is the heart rate. This is the QT interval. And it seems to be that this person is concerned for longitudinal axis deviation. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And again, this has memory, so it can remember the conversation as if you were talking to a real person. So I can ask a follow-up question. I say, what does this mean? And then it takes me through the considerations for diagnosis of this particular condition. I could have asked this about everything, but this is the context that I'm asking it about. And thinking through my bespoke information, it's given me recommendations, like the next steps to proceed if I was to take care of a patient like this. So to someone who, again, does not have access to scarce resource of a physician, this could be extremely helpful. To physicians that are training, that are learning, and trying to understand the diagnostic practice recommendations, this could be extremely helpful. To practicing physicians that have practiced for years and understand this very well, but may need to remind themselves of what the most updated recommendations are, because new publications are coming out all the time. This could be very helpful. But right now we're talking about, so I said, I am not a doctor. Please explain this to me in a more simple term, like what is a bundle branch block? The heartbeat is normal. This is good. The EKG shows electrical activity, and it's to one side than the other, and this is the concern. This is how electricity moves to the chart, moves to the patient. All of this, you can ask it to communicate back to you in the way you prefer and make the information more accessible. Because you can Google left bundle branch block. Thank you. Oh, this is much better. And get more information online. However, to have it explained in a way that is patient-facing, that's consumer-facing, that's more rare, because there may be not a lot of patients that are looking to find out what left bundle branch block is. Why? Because they don't have access to something that's going to explain the EKG to them. But now, this whole wealth of information has been open to them. So we've talked about patients, but how can these large language models help doctors be more efficient? As we talked about, a lot of what we do is gathering history. And when we gather the history from patients, we have to put it together to communicate in a note that someone else can pick up, that we can pick up later, so we can make inferences and decisions. Let's see if this wants to work. Okay, can you hear this? I don't think you can. Let me see if I can get this to play. I assure you that's not what it's supposed to sound like. Let me try something different here. Okay. So I'm going to go to that same slide. And then let me see if I can get it to play this way. All right, can you hear? Okay, well, we can continue on. So if a patient and provider are having a conversation to discuss particular scenarios about what's going on with their care, you can have a device known as an ambient scribe that can capture the audio of the recording and transcribe that information to generate unique information. I'm going to try one more time to see if it wants to. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the audio, and you're going to listen. It's going to come straight from my computer, because we are versatile. Okay, so this is an example. This is a staged conversation, okay, between a doctor and a patient, and we're going to see what the, okay?
Darian, how are you doing today?
I think
I'm good, but I fell off my bike and also my entire left leg and also my hand hurts.
Oh no, that's terrible. So you fell off your bike. How old are you?
7.
You're 7 years old. I'm sorry that you fell off your bike. So you said your hand hurts and your leg hurts? Okay, I'm going to do a quick physical exam, okay? So I am looking at your hand, and I don't see any rashes or bruises. So your hand looks good. I'm looking at your knee, and there's a small scrape at the top of your knee. And I'm going to do the rest of your physical exam. Your heart sounds like it has a regular rate, and your lungs are clear. I see that you have a small contusion above your head, and I think that otherwise you look good. I see some mosquito bites that are healing on your skin, and that's it for your physical exam. So,
Wait, what's above my head?
oh, a contusion. A contusion means it's like you bumped your head and now you have a part that's a bit of a bruise, but it's going to get better, okay? So here's what I'm going to do.
I need stitches for my lip. If you didn't notice that, please help me with that.
Okay, well, we'll get you stitches as well. Yes, I see that you have a laceration on the bottom right part of your lips. So we'll put some lacerations there. Otherwise, I'm going to get an x-ray for your leg, and I'm going to see if we can get a cast for your arm, and then I'm going to put some ice on your head, and you'll be okay. I'm gonna
And also get a wheelchair and also get stitches for my lip.
Sure, we'll get you a wheelchair and stitches.
Because my lip is bleeding at an alarming rate.
All right, you're gonna be okay. Well, I'll plan to see you tomorrow so we can follow up.
It's hurting every time you say good morning.
Okay, well. So that's an example of just a conversation between a patient and a provider. So in this example, I'm getting the feedback here. In this example, we can take the transcript of what was discussed. And my technical support, can you please assist me with the feedback? And when you take the conversation that was transcribed, you can take a tool like ChatGPT. And this one I said, this is a transcript of the discussion between a doctor and a patient. Please help me create a note. So I just pasted that exact transcript, those words, right there into ChatGPT. And then within minutes, it's able to generate for me a clinical note, including the chief complaint, physical exam, assessment, and plan. So, okay, all right. So this is of the full note as it's been generated from AI. And the importance of the fact that you can use these tools to generate clinical notes is a lot of what we have to do in medicine is documentation and capturing the history to be able to communicate with each other. Once we have the note, once we can pick up on all the nuances of what was discussed, there are a lot of new inferences we can make based on what was discussed. So now I have this information about my patients and the clinical history they have. And if anyone in the future is looking to make connections and looking to understand what the thought process of that provider, they can easily find it online, and they can find all the details that if I had to generate the note myself might have been missed. So how about responding to patient messages? So this is another example where you can ask the tool, let's say, sometimes as a doctor, we'll get messages, we'll get text messages from our patients asking, well, I'm having illness, something is happening, and based on the volume of the messages, sometimes you don't have time to get into a lot of detail. You have to be very terse and to the point. But if you could use AI to help you generate good messages, good thoughtful messages, and even empathetic messages. So I said, respond to this patient message as an empathetic doctor. And this is my message. I said, hello, doctor. My neighbor had a scare and she had some arm pain and we took her to the doctor's office. We're trying to understand what happened because her EKG showed bundle branch block. And then ChatGPT is able to take the information that I sent it and is able to come up with this thorough note that goes into detail about what the patient should do. So it says, well, regarding chest pain, it says, thank you for reaching out about your concerns about your neighbor. It's good to hear she's currently experiencing improvements in her symptoms. And it goes into detail about, says, well, this is what left axis deviation is, and explains the concerns that I might be having. And it says, given that, these are the recommendations we would have. Consult with a cardiologist, monitor for symptoms, review medications, and lifestyle considerations. And please feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. What took it seconds to generate would have taken a lot longer for a busy clinician. So one of the things that we're exploring is using these tools to help respond back to patient messages when there's a large volume, because they can take the material, process it, and give you a draft back. That's the important part. This would not be the final state. You'd have a draft for the physician that they can work with and eventually edit further to send it back, because this is supposed to augment our intelligence, not replace it. And what about language barriers? Oh, this is another audio one, so we'll see how successful we are here. Okay, so that is, let's try to be creative here. Let's see, and I'm going to turn this up now. And here's, I'm gonna stop this, and I'm gonna share this. See how adaptable we are. The feedback. So this is just an audio version, so just listen closely. I'll play it one more time. All right. In that example, even with a language barrier, you're able to convey to patients some of the information you want to. This tool here is not a tool called Acquah, made right here by some researchers at Cape Coast University. That's been written in English and translated into Twi, and it can say the audio, the information is conveyed accurately and smoothly. I can. Okay, so it's essentially all math behind the scenes. Let's try this here. Okay. We're to say to you, twinkle, twinkle, little. Would you finish that? Twinkle, twinkle, little. So 90% of the population would answer with the word star. I have one time, because I had called twinkle, and what I've never heard is onion. Where do we get the word star? Like, why was this what you arrived to? Well, probability of all the words used to convey that sentiment Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, a very popular nursery rhyme. Google will say here, some of you guys might have this predictive keyboard. It'll say the likely term to come up would twinkle, twinkle. So if any of you ever used so word so this is another if you were to ask what is the best place to visit, it gives you a list of options. This is just if you were searching. So it says in Hawaii, Greece. When I put a G in there, Greece. But then once I put Ghana, then it narrows down to find out that it's Ghana. And then it gives me similar searches people have had. So frequent things that come up when people are trying to find information. Similar to how these tools work. In the previous example, I asked, well, what is a left bundle branch block? This is what people have said about left bundle branch block. And it's not just that information back, it's assimilating that information and facilitating it back in the way that someone yes. So with its ability to predict the ability to do what seems to be reasoning as well. Here, so these tools perform in reasoning tasks. This is the USMLE medical licensing test in America. And generally, the passing threshold is around 65% based on the wealth of questions. It's all kind of on a gradient curve. The very first model they released, this is what came out in November 2022, was GPT 3.5. And when they asked it questions, multiple choice questions from the USMLE, it scored 60%. But then shortly thereafter, with GPT-4, the more advanced model, it scored 86%. So it was able to perform reasoning tasks on the order of a physician, and not just a first-year physician, a more seasoned physician. And this has become really impressive to those of us working in the field to figure out how we can augment education and training using these tools. This is another example of some benchmark standards of these tools, showing how the different models work. So comparing things like comprehension, reasoning, knowledge. This is a radar chart. A radar chart is the bigger the information is to being a full circle, the better it is. So for one of the earlier tools, like the GPT 3.5, this is the one that would be in the green. You can see here, it did okay on math, it did okay on knowledge, but once you get to the purple, GPT-4, it's a lot more impressive. And it's able to hit a lot more of those benchmarks. And let's talk about some of these knowledge benchmarks. So you have, very early on, these tools are large language models. So they're actually incredibly poor at math, which is interesting because most people would think, well, computers, if nothing else, they should be able to compute. But when it comes to reasoning, this is percentage of information that it gets right when you ask it simple questions. For something like AP Biology, it's scoring about 60. For AP History, getting up there about 70. But when you get even closer, something like environmental studies, it's doing reasonably well. And the question is, how well can these tools do, and how can we get them to be even better so they can answer these questions for us? So one of the things that we're looking at is how well does it perform to physicians? And here's what's fascinating. In this study that was done, they were comparing the different models to physicians. So they had a set of clinical cases that were rare cases and complex cases. They asked the physicians the same questions. They asked the ChatGPT the same questions as well. And they looked to see, well, how well are these tools performing? And what they found is, looking into the diagnosis, the physicians in the green performed reasonably well, but ChatGPT, the more advanced model, performed superior to their human counterparts, which was particularly interesting to those of us in the field. And then when they were looking at the diagnostic accuracy and also the patient's confidence in the advice given, the information produced by ChatGPT was actually rated superior by patients to the information given by their human counterparts. Now, why would that be? If you can answer the question that I asked when I chatted, it said like, oh, can you explain this to me a little more simply? It's because it has the ability to shape information to meet that person's needs. And it can give more background, it can give more substance, whereas the provider is capable of doing that, but they probably just don't have the time. And if we can leverage these tools to get us started, to do the foundation and prep some of the work that we're going to be doing, I think this could really help us surpass some of the standards of care we have currently. So I'm going to talk about some of the training data and what goes into making these tools work. A lot of it is based on medical standards and medical textbooks and things that are kind of representative in the environment. But a conversation I was having earlier on in the world. The people who created these tools live in California, and the data they collect is from people in the United States. So when you ask it questions about rashes, when you ask it questions about a fever, etc., the things that are going to be on the top of its differential might not necessarily be representative of the rest. So one of the important things that we need to recognize is that there are knowledge gaps in the information presence. And in order to make this tool useful and equitable for everyone around the world, we need to understand how to fill in the blanks and make sure that we're representing everyone that may be able to benefit from these tools. And then lastly, I'll just talk about how these tools can be useful in creating documentation. So this is another example using one of the GPT tools where you can ask it to create documentation for you. So I had a patient that said that she needed a note for school because she had diabetes and she needed to have frequent bathroom breaks. You can simply go to this tool and give it a simple prompt. I said, help me write a letter for a patient that they can take to school. And in seconds, it put together this letter for me that I can just send to the patient. And had I had to do it myself, it might have taken a little bit longer, not because I didn't want to, not because I know how, but because there's so much else to do. But if we can engineer these tools to be in our workflow, so that when we get requests like these through patient messages, it can get the draft started for you so that you can go back to it, edit it, and then send it along. That will save time for the patients, that saves time for the physicians, and makes the entire process more efficient. So lastly, of empathy. One of the things that people get very concerned about is, well, I don't want a robot taking care of me. I don't want AI to be my doctor. Back to patients compared to more empathetic than the human doctor responses. Why would that be? Again, time and attention. So in seconds, you could see that this was able to generate a full clinic note. In seconds, it was able to explain left bundle branch block. And physicians, as we discussed, scarcity. And when you have a scarcity of people, you have a scarcity of time. But if you're able to leverage these tools because they have boundless time because they're machines, creating the work for you, then you can generate more time for yourself so you can do more to take care of more people. So, folks, we have knowledge at our fingertips, but we have to be cautious also, because sometimes there are pros and cons of using these tools. But the call to action here is, especially for the younger generation, just make sure that you're playing these businesses and the set. Because depending on what you ask it and depending on what it knows, that might not be, not because it's trying to trick anyone, but because it doesn't have that information to answer the question. For example, if I said, oh, my 8-year-old daughter has a fever, what could be happening? It might say, oh, she might have the flu, or oh, she might have a bug. Unless I gave it additional context to say she's in Ghana, it would never suggest she might have malaria. This is the course of action you need to take. So these are the considerations, new tools to help us take care of patients, to help us take care of each other, that in order for it to be equitable, we need to make sure the data is representative of all populations. So with this, I'm going to pass it along to my colleague who has additional information to share. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, our speaker. We'll be coming to questions, so my colleague will take care of that when it comes to. Now, to introduce the second speaker to us for the second part, the series of this lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. The second speaker will be taking us through basic sciences of AI, applications of AI in medical care delivery, and then the third portion will be responsible use of AI, ethical and safety considerations. To make it very short, I'll give a brief introduction of the speaker. He's a Ghanaian locally based in Accra, here in Ghana, precisely in Kolebu. He holds an MBA, CHB from University of Ghana and also an MPH from the same University School of Public Health. He's currently a specialist public health physician at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital and a member of the West Africa College of Surgeons, of Physicians. He's a fellow in training in community health of the same college, that's West African College of Physicians. He's a proprietor and CEO of Checkpoint Multi-Specialist Medical Center here in Accra. Our speaker is a member of the Innovation and Telemedicine Committees of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital and also University of Ghana Medical School's website committee. His areas of interest in scientific research are artificial intelligence, in medicine and drug discovery, and many others. Ladies and gentlemen, you agree with me that this gentleman, because of all that he has done, he's a qualified person to take us through the second portion of today's lecture. Shall we therefore welcome Dr. George Henry Acquah to the please. Oh. You are ready. Thank you very much. Intelligence wise, he's here before the start. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good day to you all. It's nice. We are going to look at aspects of artificial intelligence. My colleague, Dr. Yaa Kumah-Crystal, has done a lot of work and marvelous work showing us a lot about ChatGPT and how we can use it. And ChatGPT indeed is a very wonderful current. We all and be able to use it well, effectively as medical. We shall just go through briefly a little about the scientific basis of artificial intelligence. We shall go too deep just to give you an idea. We'll look at some domains of artificial intelligence. We'll look at responsible use of artificial intelligence. Okay. All right, so a bit about of artificial intelligence. So the current state of industrialization in which we are is something we call Industry 4.0. And for us as healthcare practitioners, healthcare 4.0, it's all began from somewhere in the 18th century where things were largely mechanical. To the 19th century, cars came to play, electricity came to being, to the 20th century, where the computer came to being, and early part of the 20th century, owing to the fact that there was the need to transmit information rapidly and more efficiently. So the computer came to being, and a chap by name Alan Turing thought it wise that machines should be able to reason, they should be able to think like man. And he laid up the foundation for what we have today as AI, and he built up on the of so many people, Einstein, the Lovelace. So AI actually has a lot of roots in scientific history. Let's just take a look at the concept of the smart doctor. So over here on this page, we see this cartoon of a medical doctor equipped with so many tools around himself that makes work very nice, smart for him. He's able to access information so readily and make diagnosis and treat. And technology can really be harnessed. So we all need to switch into the smart mode. Let's briefly look at some applications of AI in medicine. AI can couple telemedicine and do wondrous stuff. We can read pathologies from the skin. AI has the ability to decompose images and make sense from them with very high precision. So what I mean is we can diagnose imagery. We can augment the job of dermatologists, radiologists, pathologists, ophthalmologists. All these physicians work with images, and artificial intelligence has algorithms that can decompose these images and make meaning from them. So by extension, you could just use your mobile phone to take a picture of some boil or some rash on your skin, and the algorithm can map out the features of these lesions and tell you what you have if it is well trained. Pathologists are not spared from this, so we can scale up pathological services. Maybe if we are in a terrain where there are limited pathologists, there are very few pathologists, we can export images. We can view these images with applications or AI-driven softwares which can make diagnosis for us. We'll understand why very soon. Radiologists to leverage this a lot to make meaning from their imagery. Psychiatrists also leverage on teletechnology. It's a bit convenient for our psychiatric patients. They want privacy and all that. A lot of them prefer consult via tele, and AI apps to here again to handle a lot of their mood issues and all that. Ophthalmology, ENT, visualizing the retina, the eardrum and all that. These pathologies can all be analyzed by these handheld devices. And one would wonder whether they are going to replace the doctors very soon, but not in any time soon. Okay. Obstetrics. In obstetrics, we have AI uses there as well. So we have the Sonopatch, which basically just like a thin plaster-like device embedded with ultrasound units. So the pregnant woman can just take this at her lower abdomen and then conduct an ultrasound scan. Even if the doctor is not there, AI can look at the images and interpret it and tell us the features of the baby, the maturity, gestation, the liquor and its properties, if there are any anomalies, etc., etc. Technology is gradually growing out of medicine is gradually out of the hands of the doctor. So very soon patients will come to the hospital with more information than before. We can leverage artificial intelligence to really understand data, find patterns and trends in data. In the case of pregnant women, there's a lot of data gathering the fetus, right from blood pressure, blood sugar, vitals of the mother to assessing the biophysical profile. Is a whole wealth of data, and we can make very accurate predictions of demise, predictions of impending morbidity and mortality way before human systems can detect them. So we can leverage AI to make very good use of information in that regard. I want us to zoom in a bit into the smartwatch, something very simple, very common, very readily available to us, and it's really a very helpful tool. We can use our smartwatches to monitor blood pressure non-invasively, monitor blood glucose. We can track our blood temperatures, oxygen saturation, hemoglobin levels. We can compute the calories we expend each day. We can measure level of stress we are subjected to, and we can tell our pulse rate and its regularity, detect arrhythmias, which can be very useful for stroke prevention. We shall go a bit into the sciences behind this. Basically, there's something or some technology known as plethysmography. What it is that the watch has a detector at the base that emits infrared radiation. This goes through your skin, the blood vessels, and then it's reflected back onto a detector. Now, the difference between the light transmitted and what is absorbed is used to approximate the amount of blood flowing through your blood vessels at any point in time. If you know, or we have an idea of your pulse rate and then your blood volume, we can estimate your blood pressure statistically. And this is how we measure BP with a smartwatch. So if you put on your Samsung watch and it gives you your BP 120/80, it is a statistical measurement, as opposed to you using your sphygmomanometer and all that. Now, this same infrared light here to disperses the iron pigments in your red blood cells and actually fragments the hemoglobin component into various segments. And we can compute the amount of hemoglobin that is oxygenated, and through subtraction, we can get deoxygenated hemoglobin. We can also obtain levels of things like hemoglobin, glycated hemoglobin, and all that through spectroscopy. These are all embedded in the watch device. We can compute blood sugar non-invasively. Now, there are a number of technologies through which estimate blood sugar. There's something known as ISF, interstitial fluid glucose magnetization, which just basically approximates the amount of glucose in the extracellular fluid matrix. And mathematically, we can extrapolate and tell what is in the blood vessel itself. So we can tell your random sugar, your fasting sugar. You can tell your sugar at any point in time. We can also obtain your glycated hemoglobin at any point in time using the method of fractionating the hemoglobin we talked about. So these devices are really very vital in these days if we are to manage our patients very well for these diseases. Right, now let's look at a few smart devices that also use AI here. So we have the digital pancreas over here, works with artificial intelligence, basically measures the amount of insulin and also the sugar levels in blood, calibrates and titrates this against each other, so it outputs the exact or precise amount of insulin your body requires based on your blood sugar. And this is at a higher precision than what your biological pancreas over here will do. So we have the digital or artificial pancreas coming into the scene, employing AI to control diabetes. Okay. Now about brain issues, strokes, dementias, and all that. So now we have brain chips. I believe most of us here, especially our younger students, have heard of Elon Musk and the wonders he's doing with his brain chips and all that. So basically, because of AI, we can insert a chip into your brain, right? This chip can read the signals whenever your neurons fire, and we can train a model to predict your activity, that you want to move a cursor, you want to move your limb, you want to do this, you want to do that. So by extension, with a chip in your brain, you can control a cursor on a screen, right? Once you can control any device out there, it means you can control anything to move any part of your body, including maybe some exoskeleton connected to your limbs. So if you have a stroke with some hemiplegia, hemiparesis, all we need is to get you the skeleton, fit in the chip, and then you can move your leg anytime you want to move it. If we don't want to go through the surgical approach, there is also the interventional equivalent, what you call the stent route. So with this one, we don't need to do a craniectomy. We need to just put you under a fluoroscopic unit. We pass the stents and go through the blood vessels in the brain to whichever site is close to the site of damage, and then we deploy the stents there. That's it over there, the stent route up here, like a wire mesh in a balloon. So it gets there, it gets placed in the blood vessel. As soon as it lands, it recruits neurons to grow around it. Then it gets into contact with the brain parenchyma and is in a position to relay impulses of the brain wirelessly to computers remotely. Okay, so we can treat strokes with this. We can treat dementias with these things. Now let's look at the retina. A very common cause of blindness, detachment of the retina, and various retinal abnormalities. The whole retinal apparatus can be replaced with an implant. And this implant basically can assemble electromagnetic signals, and then converts them to impulses your brain can understand. So, which means we can cure blindness more or less with these retinal implants. Basically, you don't really need your pair of eyes to see. All what you need is something to convey impulses to your occipital cortex. It could be anything. It could be some motor device or anything that emits signals which your brain understands. Provided those signals get understood by the occipital cortex, you can cause an appearance to be made even in its absence, and we shall see as we go down the line. Okay, so we have cochlear implants to cure deafness in the same regard. All these work with artificial intelligence. They study and calibrate signals, and then they make predictions as to what you want to do, what you want to hear, what you have to see. We can apply AI in our emergency settings to defibrillators, our oxygen monitors, various devices on the world all utilize data. They gather data, they transmit data. So this leads us to the concept of machine wellness. So there is a patient A, on admission, being treated for some sepsis, some very bad condition of the sort, and we've administered our antibiotics, everything. Now this patient is responding, he's fine. Doctor comes to see him, maybe he even goes to see him off on other. So that to the clinicians, to the ward, we are fine with the patient, ready to discharge him. But a machine can tell you that this patient is going to pop in the next 2 days, based on the pattern of parameters it has absorbed. Basically, what I'm trying to say is AI can see more than we can see. It has the ability to extract intrinsic patterns from data, which are not perceptible to the human eye. If I should display 10,000 points on this screen right now, all your eyes can see are those 10,000 points, right? But there are various algorithms, something we call clustering. Just through a series of iterations, it can form about 8 subgroups within those 10,000 data points and unveil new patterns. So we have a lot of data on our watch. What we are making from it, we are highly limited as to what we can do with. We can do much more with it when we deploy computer algorithms to manage them. And these can be life-saving. They can predict arrhythmias, they can predict fibrillations, they can predict seizures, they can predict death, and tell you to intervene way before observable signs become notable. So in our emergency settings, they are very useful. They can also help us scale up ICU services to underserved areas. Right, so let's just look a bit about the scientific basis of AI. So AI basically is the ability of machines to reason and act like man in its simplest definition. So what it is that the scientists once upon a time sat down, they observed how human beings reason. They divided the human brain into an input segment, a processing segment, and an output segment, whereby the input segment where we obtain our senses from, the eyes, the ears. The processing unit is the whole brain parenchyma, the brain stem, the spine and all. And then the output unit is the brain cortex where perception takes place. So we can liken the structure to that of the computer. We have the input unit to include things like the keyboard, the mouse, etc. Processing units to be the CPU here, and then the output unit to be the monitor here. Right. Now, this is a basic structure of what we call an artificial neural network, precisely a deep neural network. Deep neural networks modeled on the anatomy of the human brain. They have the ability to reason like you and I. So AI or apps that are powered by deep learning function based on this structure. There's an input layer, there's a processing or hidden layer, and then there's an output layer. And there are chains and intricate connections of this. In the human being, it's been established that we have about 86 billion of neurons, and there are close to 500 trillion connections between these neurons. Okay, so what we have here are synthesized. This is software, this is code. So a programmer who maybe has nothing to do can just sit by the computer and decide, I want to create a brain with 40 trillion neurons. Exactly, and we can imagine the kind of decisions that brain can take. And unlike you and I, who have to eat and sleep and grow over 30, 40, 50 years, this command will be executed in seconds. So by extension, the computers can be fascinating and will look more. It's not to scare you, but it's just to, show you some things. All right, so, right, over here we see the neuron on our left, we see the perceptron to our left. To our right, the perceptron is the equivalent of the neuron or the nerve cell in artificial intelligence. So when we look at the anatomy of the neuron, we have the axons over here, the dendrites, cell body, nucleus, and all that. This connects to another one, etc., etc. Basically, for a nerve to convey an impulse from one neuron for impulse to be conveyed from one neuron to another, there must be an action potential, which is a threshold set at which impulses are permitted to move from one nerve to another. So scientists again studied this mechanism, and then they came up with a perceptron. We have series of nodes or adjacent neurons over here. They move onto another layer of neurons, and this can happen when the weights they are emitted are summed up, and when they reach a certain threshold, then they are allowed to fire to the next set of neurons. So this whole threshold activation mechanism, in computer science, we call it activation function. In medicine, we call it action potential. Okay, good, let's go down. Right, so the neuron, the perceptron. So there we have the action potential over here. We have the activation function over here. There are several of them, about 7 of them. By far, the commonest we use is what we call the ReLU, which outputs for any given value of X. If X is more than 0, we see a potential, it fires. If it's less than 0, it keeps still. So there's a threshold control mechanism here. This ensures that This makes room for non-linearity. We'll see this as we go down this side bit. Okay. Right. So let's try and understand a few things here before we move on. There's something we call supervised learning. There's something we call unsupervised learning. So in AI, when we say supervised learning, we mean that someone is training a model. That person knows the labels or the names of the things he's using to train the model and the outcome. Then we have something we call unsupervised learning. With unsupervised learning, we just leave the model or the system to deduce patterns from the data we give it and come up with its own stratification. An example of supervised learning could be maybe training kindergarten students to label fruits. So you show him, this is apple, this is mango, this is watermelon, this is orange. Then you do a test. You bring an apple and it tells you it's apple based on the training you've given it. With unsupervised learning, you could take this same child to a place, show him a portrait maybe of, let's say, a mountain by a sea or something. This child might have perhaps not seen a sea before. Maybe he saw a swimming pool at the father's house. Then he'll tell you, oh, I can see something like a very big swimming pool by a garden. The child doesn't know what a sea is, he doesn't know what a mountain is, but he's able to make a pattern out of it and form an impression. That's what we call unsupervised learning. So machines have the ability to study data and reveal hidden patterns. Right. We shall stick to that for now because of time. Okay. So broadly, AI can be broken down into two segments. Machine learning, we have deep learning. With machine learning, we feed the machine with prescribed instruction, give it an algorithm, and it gives you an output. With deep learning, in addition to this, it has the ability to also carry out unsupervised learning, detect patterns, give us predictions, and sometimes some of these predictions we can't know, we can't tell. So basically, a deep neural network is like a black hole. It can come up with things that we don't know, and that's one of the dangers of AI. There are a number of machine learning algorithms. We have linear logistic regression trees, decision trees. We have something we call support vector machines, random forests, dimensionality reduction mechanisms, and all that. So let's just take the linear regression model for simplicity sake. When we look up here, we see this X and Y axis over here. Systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure. It could be anything. It could be age and weight. Over time, we accrue data points and we can obtain a line of best fits, which becomes a model of prediction. So in other words, having computed systolic blood pressure here and predicted systolic blood pressure from the model after a time, and when we give you some target BP here, you can predict what that BP should be. That is the basis on which our smartwatches work. They use something we call pulse transit time, and this pulse transit time has been found to be inversely proportional to blood pressure. This has been measured in the UK. This has been done over 10 million patients. So they have a really rigorous model based upon which, when we give you the pulse transit time, we can predict, in fact, perhaps with a higher accuracy than mercury sphygmomanometers will do your blood pressure. So that's an example of machine learning. Okay. Decision trees, which we see a lot on our wards, TB protocol, HIV protocol, cholera protocol. Is patient male or female? Is there temperature? Is there this? If it's this, do that. If it's not this, do that. Move on to the next step. So all these are decision trees. They are algorithms which tell computers what to do. The deep neural network, we've seen that. Now, about the deep neural network, we first of all need to train the model. Then we test it and validate it, and then we are sure of how it's running. So in training the model, usually we use the supervised approach, whereby the one making the model knows the labels of the data is feeding it. Maybe we want to make a model to make diagnosis from chest x-rays. So let's say normal versus cardiomegaly. So you label them, you input them, and then it gets stored in the output layer. Right, then you test it. You take a sample of your training data, maybe usually about 20%, and you give it to it. If it gets it right, then you move on. If it doesn't, then you correct it. So basically, it computes the error or the difference between the expected value and what you gave it, and then works it back into the system as a function of it through a process we call back propagation. And by this, we are able to fine-tune our parameters in the model. So through this, the computer is able to learn on its own and adjust to situations. Okay. These are common neural networks we use. We have something called a convolutional neural network. We have something we call generative adversarial networks and transformers. Transformers are what power our ChatGPT. Convolutional neural networks, we use them to decompose images for various uses. Right now, let's look at the domains of AI. Computer vision. How do computers make sense from images? So first of all, there's an enumeration system which computers use. So we store information as binary digits, zeros and ones. So everything the computer understands has to be converted to zeros and ones. So this phase over here, we number all the colors with various numbers, and they are broken down to zeros and ones, and then it picks it up. There's something known as the trichromatic theory of vision. All what it says is that all the colors in the world can be broken down into three colors: red, green, and blue. And any other color you can obtain should be a combination of any of these three. If you want brown, it could be something between red and blue and all that. So based on this, we numbered all the colors on a scale from 0 to 255 and further reduced this with binary operations to zeros and ones. So the color brown could be, let's say, 172 on the 255 scale, but in binary digits could be, let's say, 111000, etc., etc. So we manipulate these digits to produce any color we want. Okay, good. So the convolutional neural network we talked about is an algorithm for decomposing images. Or what it does is that after breaking down your object into various colors, then we apply a series of matrix operations to basically compress all the numbers, average them, pool them, and make them very convenient. Then we present these numbers to an artificial neural network like this one over here. If this network has been well trained over here to be able to recognize at the output layer whatever you've input here. So if you put a red shirt here, if the numbers tally here, it will be able to pick up the red shirt. If it's a green shirt, it can pick it up. So by extension, if it's a head CT scan showing hemorrhage, if the numbers correspond over here, it can tell that this is a hemorrhage or this is an infarct. So that is how computers make sense from images in a nutshell. Okay. Now let's see how computers make meaning from speech. So there's something we call natural language processing. And I'll not attempt to explain this for us, but this basically is a very highly simplified architecture of the transformer neural network. It has three components. You have the encoder, we have the decoder, and then we have an output layer whereby predictions are made, and this tells us what a statement is trying to achieve. Let's go down and understand it some more. Okay, so basically, given a statement, let's say a 3-day history of fever, rigors, chills. On examining him, was lethargic, warm to touch, pale, RDT is positive. You and I know it's malaria. When we feed this to ChatGPT, what the model does is to first segment the sentence. So air is a segment, 3 a segment, day is a segment, history a segment, etc. Then we do something called tokenization. We assign values to all these things. Then we do something called stemming. So we try to deduce the roots of the word. So is it a noun? Is it a verb? Is it an adjective? 3, is it a pronoun? What is it? Then we do something called lemmatization. Now, these words, English being a secondary language, originated from things like Greek, Latin, and all that. They have roots. So we need to trace them to their roots to be sure of where the word is coming from. So fever might have some roots in Latin or whatever, depicts in a high body temperature. So we trace these roots. Then we do what we call a stop word analysis. So stop words begin and end statements. Is a stop word. Fever in this case is a stop word up to where the comma is. So over here, is this being used as an adjective? Is it starting? Is it ending a statement? We analyze the role of that stop word. Then we do something called dependency parsing. So over here, we use some way of distributing probabilities of relationship between the words, whereby the fever over here, what has it got to do with history? The rigors here, what has it got to do with day? What has it got to do with 3? It might sound pretty straightforward or maybe quite complicated, but the thing is, on a regular day, if you should speak as a human being, you will not really pay that close attention to these things, and that is one of the reasons why they surpass us at in these reasoning abilities. Then we tag the parts of speech, determine which ones are nouns, pronouns, etc., etc. When we finish all these things, these tokens are then fed to a neural network, and if this neural network is well trained and the values correspond, then it will give you what you are looking for. So that's how the ChatGPT works. If you feed this model, if you feed this information into ChatGPT, it will subject it to this rigorous process, scrutinize how each word relates to the other, and then make a prediction of what you want based on probability. And you can tell what we are looking for. We can harness this ability in our clinical examinations, our history taking, physical examination. We can feed all this information into our ChatGPT and they'll be processed. Let's look at sound processing. So we have graphs that depict peaks and troughs of the sound we make. These can all be numbered and coded and fed to trained neural networks, and we can tell whether we are listening to a ronkai, or we are listening to a mema, or we are listening to a crackle, or some bow sounds, or any other thing. The beauty of this thing is that in addition to the computer telling you that this is an S4 gallop, it will also give you the characteristic graphical pattern of it. So that's era where Dr. A had a ronkai, Dr. B had a crackle, is no longer there. Now, if it's a ronkai, we see the graph for the ronkai. If it's a crackle, we see the graph for the crackle. So the business of resident head S1, consultant head S3 is no longer there. If it's S1, we all see it. The whole world sees it. If it's S3, everyone sees it. So it makes work very efficient. Let's look at a few other applications of AI. An emerging field we call immersive reality. Over here, we use visual spatial properties of computing devices in something we call reality to diagnose and treat conditions. So this man over here has this gaming headset over here. He's been immersed in a virtual world. So it could be him swimming in space, jumping from planet to planet, or maybe playing somewhere, something, assuming himself to be the one playing the ball when in fact he's not the one, and all that. These are believed to have a lot of features that can aid in treating certain conditions. For instance, reality induces neuroplasticity, and we can use this in treating strokes and dementias, growing new neurons, getting our stroke patients to recover fast. We can make use of reality to treat phobias. Maybe you want to climb onto a story with about 80 floors, and then you are afraid. So we just simulate the scene for you with the reality headset, and you see yourself actually climb up there a number of times, and the fear goes away. We can use this to treat stress and anxiety related disorders and some other things as well. It also has its other we call augmented reality. With augmented reality, we actually have a real physical world, and then we try to superimpose a virtual world onto it. So an example could be a surgeon operating maybe on the bowel or on the brain, and then we superimpose the atlas of the anatomy of the vasculature of that part of the brain on the screen. So by so doing, you know which vessels to avoid and which ones to spare and all that. Okay, so that's immersive reality. This can be coupled to artificial intelligence, whereby the objects you see through the reality lenses are guided by AI. So AI can make meaning from these images, can identify that you are actually looking at some group of blood vessels somewhere, and can make predictions for you. It can tell you, well, if you go through this course, there's a 70% probability of cutting through this vessel. So use this approach and things like that. So AI can couple reality to do a lot of wonderful things. That's a patient here having immersive psychotherapy. So our psychologists, our psychiatrists make very good use of these technologies in treating various conditions, from bipolar disorders to anxiety disorders, schizophrenia. They all have uses within special therapy. That's an old man here suffering from a stroke, trying to recover. Now he loves football so much, so he just assumes himself to be the one playing the ball on the screen. This is what we call immersive reality. And once he's immersed in the whole process, it aids him to move his limb better. More neurons grow up in the brain, and it helps with recovery. We can use AI in conjunction with other devices to render healthcare services. We can have smart pills, so we don't need to travel down to Kolebu or Komfanochi to do an endoscopy any longer. You can just swallow your pill somewhere. This pill has some chip embedded in it. It gets activated in the presence of hydrochloric acid in your stomach. The light and the camera come on, and as they traverse through your intestines, images are obtained. These are wirelessly relayed to computer systems, and it's one of two things. AI can take the decision there, or the gastroenterologist can take the decision over there. So we can do endoscopies remotely and in adjunctively with AI. So the sono patch, like I talked about, you can just plaster it at the lower abdomen, and then it can obtain the images. We can also plaster one on the precordial area if you want to do an echo, and it will relay these impulses. Machines can take the decisions for us, can make decisions, can make diagnosis for you. And you can also use the tele approach, relays to a human cardiologist or physician, and then we can get these things too. Smartwatches, we've talked about them. Robotics. Robots can also be driven by machine learning, and they come with precision, fineness of touch, dexterity, and reality aid. Together, these technologies make robots somewhat more precise in surgical interventions. At the moment, we don't fully deploy robots to autonomously work on patients, but that time is going to come where AI will really be strong, and we'll have instances where robots will, on their own, operate patients. Now, let's look a bit about some safety concerns and dangers. So in as much as AI can be useful, it also has its drawbacks. There can be cloning of voice and appearances. From what you've said so far, we can command your appearance to be made if we know the exact combination of zeros and ones that will produce you. And by extension, we can get your doctor to fake a call for you, and you might not make the difference in the voice. You might see him on screen and you might not physically be able to tell. There may be computational errors. It's a machine. There can be changes in internet reporting times. Blood sugar at 6 a.m. is not the same as blood sugar at 3 p.m. They all have implications, and these are some of the problems associated with these things. Background color can influence image analysis. Remember, what the machine is seeing is zeros and ones with respect to what it is picking. So if this is white, it's because the environment here is allowing white to shine. If there's a superimposing light here that makes it appear blue, it's going to report it as blue. And for that matter, if hemorrhage can become infarct, depending on the background circumstances, we need to take care of that. Issues bordering patient privacy, confidentiality, and all that also comes to play. So ethical concerns, first of all, we need an ethical board. We need ethical boards at all levels, at the national level, at the ministerial level, at institutional levels, to govern the use of AI. It is very productive, but it can also be harmful. We need FDA to approve the use of any algorithm we want to use on our patients. We also need the informed consent of the manufacturer, of the service provider, and of the patient, the end user as well. And then we always need to ensure that the human loop is kept in the design of AI systems. So whatever AI, ChatGPT, you've gone to consult, have a second consultation with another doctor, a human doctor, because it could potentially mislead you, and it can potentially have errors and mislead you. Let's look a bit at our readiness as a country for AI. So last month, on the 28th of June, IMF released an AI preparedness index, which my co-presenter talked about, and they measured the level of AI preparedness in 174 countries across the group. Ghana had a score of 0.3 and emerged third in Africa, which means in Africa, some way, somehow, we are one of the most well-prepared countries to receive AI. The Ministry of Communications and Digitalization is also in a process of drafting a comprehensive policy document to regulate the use of AI in the country. This is ongoing at the moment. Currently, in our training as doctors, we teach this as part of digital medicine to undergraduate students across our medical schools. And there's also a plan by the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons to roll out a certificate program for postgraduates as well. There's a need for policies by government to procure and install digital infrastructure countrywide. We need the computers, we need supercomputers. AI works with tons of volume, so we need data centers, data units. One could be as big as the Ghana College building, and it could house tons of data, and this is what we use to, if you want to really practice or deploy AI well, we need such infrastructure. We need to train people. We need to give scholarship for practitioners and students to travel outside, learn computer technology, and come and implement these down here. We need to inculcate these things into the syllabus of students, junior high schools, senior high schools, universities, primary schools. People should know about AI as a tool for development, and it has come to stay. We need, so these are some of the infrastructures. We could have telemedicine command centers. So we could have such a big unit with about 100 PCs installed, with doctors just offering remote services. We could scale up our specialist services, our surgeries, even surgeries to underserved areas of the country where, for various reasons, doctors don't want to accept postings there and all that. So if they want to retain the postings here, we could operate a center for them here so that they scale their services to those areas. We need supercomputers, like I said, giant computers that can process chunks of information for use. In the future, we are looking at these three phenomena. So we are growing into an era of superhuman intelligence, which is almost creeping in, where machines are now more intelligent than us. Like we saw ChatGPT now outperforms us at USMLE. From here, we'll graduate to a place where we call transhumanism, whereby machines will do most of the work. So the robots will tell the surgeon, take this bite, move this angle, or do this or that, and these are the repercussions. So in other words, we are now going to learn from the machines. Then we'll go into a phase we call the singularity, where it is believed that machines will take over the whole world and perhaps drive us extinct. Now we have lethal automated bombs. So these bombs just study an environment, they feel threatened or whatever by their presence, and then they can just detonate, and then they can extinguish all the people there. The likes of the Pope have called for interventions to ban these devices because they feel it's a bit unethical for a machine to take away a human life based on its decisions, but this is what is creeping into the scene. So I'll end with this little quote over here. If you want a computer to make a diagnosis or dispense some treatment for us, then it's important that we know how these machines think. We need to consider algorithms like we've discussed, in addition to all the things we talk about for our patients. Thank you all.
Wow. I think they deserve another round of applause. Mr. Chairman, Prof, this is a good point to take an interlude whilst we invite our panelists back upstage. We are going to take a poem from a student, one of our students, SHS students from the Presbyterian Boys Secondary School. I may be a bit biased because it's one of the best schools in Ghana. He goes by the name Papa Yao Ewuku Bequin. So he gives us a very short poem. Let's welcome him upstage with a clap of him. Please clap for the best boys school in Ghana.
Hello, good afternoon. So the title of my poem is A New Dance. I begin. In sterile rooms where whispers flow, and in every heartbeat hope grows, there blooms a force both sage and new, a dance of steel, of cold and blue, with eyes that might one day see beyond our own. The gaze of AI cuts through the unknown, a cancer's cure, a hidden flaw, revealed beneath its piercing soul. It crafts a map of each unique, a path tailored for all who seek. Genetics and history intertwined. A cure crafted, not just extracted. In surgery's most sacred space, robotic hands with steady grace. Assist the healer's guiding hand, a dance of metal, flesh and sand. Machines that watch with tireless care, ensuring breaths in moments rare. A vigil kept through night and day, a digital embrace we shall lay. Yet ethics tread where wires weave, a mindful step we must believe, that in this surge of bright advance, the human heart might, no, will have a chance. The future hums with promise sweet, where AI and recovery meet. In labs, in wards, and in dreams unfurled, a healing light for all the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We want to acknowledge some very important guests who are in our midst. We have the rector of the college, Professor Richard Adanu. We have Professor Yao Edu Jemfi, our council chair. Dr. Justina Ansa is the Vice President, Division of Physicians. We have Professor Pius Agbenoku, Vice President, Division of Surgeons. We have Professor Paul Nyame, a council member. Yes, Professor Nyame was also the first rector of the college. Please put your hands together for him. We also have Professor David Oforieje, a former rector of the college. We also have Dr. John Nkrumah Mills, a former college president. Okay, he's not here. We have Dr. Della Dovlo, former faculty chair, public health. We also have Dr. Audrey Forson. Audrey Forson is a former vice president, division of physicians. All right. We also have in our midst Mr. Ernest Ejay Tufo. He's a rep from the Directorate of Ministry of Health. Yeah, thank you for coming. We also have a rep from the audit unit of the Ministry of Health, Madam Faith Ifua Azuma. We also have the Dean for Family Health Medical School, Dr. C. Flesher Joleto. Am I correct? We also have students from the Accra College of Medicine. If you can give us a wave. Yeah, thank you for coming. We also have dean and students from the University of Ghana Medical School, Medical and Dental School. Okay. We also have some SHS students who were able to make it. Presec Legon. Please, let's kindly acknowledge our young people. Achimota SHS. You can give us a wave. All right. We also have St. John's Grammar SHS. We were also honored to have some traditional leaders in our midst. We have Ni Tete Ajabing the Third, from the Adabraka traditional area. We also have Na Koko Ajieyi the First, the Adabraka traditional area Manye. All right. So at this point, we want to empanel our speakers. So, Chairman, with your permission, want to invite back upstage our panel. And chairing the panel discussion is the Vice President, Division of Physicians. She's a former faculty chair and chief examiner of the Faculty of Laboratory Medicine, Dr. Justina Ansah. So we'll hand over this portion of our program to Dr. Justina Kodai Ansah. Please, let's put our hands together for them as they come up stage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perez. We now are at the second part of this afternoon's public lecture, and that is the panel discussion. We have listened to our distinguished speakers, brilliant presentations, a lot one afternoon though, from Dr. Yaa Kumah-Crystal and then Dr. George Henry Acquah. We now have the opportunity to ask them all the questions. We have the on-site audience as well as the virtual audience. So we'll take questions from the on-site and then the virtual audience as the time would allow us. So if you have any question, you can please raise your hand. We'll bring the mic to you, and then you can ask all the questions. They are here now. So can we? Yes, there's one here.
Thank you very much. My name is Israel. My question is on data. The reason why I want to ask the question about data is that for developers, we have tried building a neural network for X-ray identification. And on base level, it's just an image identification algorithm. So, as you said, data with that in mind, I ask for what for systems such as X-ray identification. Second, even if we have data on image identification for X-rays specifically, because that's what I know about so far. We know that on a base level, image, for example, for example, we want to make it as accurate as possible. Using a deep learning algorithm gives it basically to the machine. So, if we manually label the X-ray images ourselves, training that for a responsive model will be time consuming and take. So, mechanisms in place that if you get the data, yes, we have an AI, the medical system automatically do all these feature engineering and sorry. I want to ask if on the medical side, when they get the data on first hand, they have systems to do the feature engineering. Thankfully for X-rays, it's already in grayscale, so its image processing is like easier. So all the classification, so that when it gets to developer side, all we have to do is run it through our neural network. Thank you.
Can we please have another question so we can take them? Yes, please, there's one student over there.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Esli Kojokese, student of Presec Legon. Okay, so my question is that in today's world, we've already come to the realization that, yes, there are knowledge gaps with the language models that we currently have. But then what we've realized is that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, in the build up to what we have today, we've seen that the language models have become better than what they were a few years ago. So is there a possibility that from what we've seen in the past, isn't there a possibility that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, these gaps could be like closed up? So then isn't there a possibility that in today's world, we are talking of augmentation. In 20 years, isn't there a possibility that the job of doctors could be completely thrown out? Because now you could argue that, sure, when I go to ChatGPT does not have information for maybe Ghana. But then 20 years to come, somebody might do that. So then I can just literally do everything and ChatGPT can give me the results that I need. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. A third one, probably, then we can take. Okay. Okay, probably I'll add a third one. How can everyday people start to take advantage of some of these emerging advancements in artificial intelligence? That is to Yaa. Okay, so can we take the three questions? So, because of time. Okay, sorry. Sorry.
And is that with the advent of artificial intelligence, we are going to lose the human touch when we do hospital. I have a short scenario to paint to you. Years back at Convanoche Hospital in Kumasi, we had doctors who were not Africans, white people attending to patients. And one morning, a middle-aged woman went to hospital and the doctor asked her her problem for coming to see him. Then she said, "Miyemu." You see, this is not an easy verb or whatever it is to describe. So the nurse told the doctor that the woman says she had severe pains in her stomach. Then the woman said, pains in a mintuminka. Manka said pains. So the doctor realized that the nurse was not interpreting the woman's problem properly. So he went to the nurse consulting room and brought an African to listen to the woman's problem. And when the African asked the woman, Mommy, then how, meaning that, Madam, what is your problem? Then the woman said, Miyamungumi. Then the African doctor told the white man that the woman is telling you that she has intermittent stomach disorder, and that solved the problem. You see, in such a scenario, I do not believe that artificial intelligence can solve our problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So can we take the 4 questions? There's one more, so we can. Yes, please. There's a question up there.
Hello, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Samuel Kumah, and my question specifically goes to Dr. Kumah-Crystal, and it stems from her submission about the clients or patients out there having to also use chat GPT or the AI. So the issue of they being armed with information and in such a way, I don't know if the AI issues a lot of disclaimers that will guide them, because some of the examples you showed were information that was actionable. They were to take some medications or to do something. And if something results out of that, medical legally, because we even practitioners are not encouraged to send messages to patients on WhatsApp or something, because when a screenshot is taken, the court issues can come up. So how does the tool take care of those situations?
Can we yes, can we get yours? Then we can take all of them. Yes. Okay. If you can hold your questions, they will answer that, and then you. Yes. Sorry.
All right, those were some amazing questions, and I'm pleased to see it was this half of the room that was starting off with a question. So let me tackle the ones that I can remember first. With regards to what the future looks like and whether there's going to be a state where these tools are better at diagnosing and giving expert opinion than the human counterparts, without a doubt. The question is when, and what do we need to prepare for that scenario? As a physician, you're all physicians. If you lived in a world where most diseases were addressable and could be cured with some advice, I don't think you'd be sad. I'm an endocrinologist, and if they cured diabetes tomorrow, I would not be disappointed because I didn't have work to do. I think our goal is for everybody's health to be elevated. And if we can get to a situation where these tools are able to diagnose and recommend in a safe and accurate way, that's probably a good thing. Medicine's a very conservative field, though. And before we can get to the part where we're offsetting these tasks to machines, I think there needs to be a lot of data to support that this is a safer route. With regards to the liability component, that's extremely important. And it's unclear now. We really don't have any real precedents to determine whether there's liability or not. The only things that we have are situations that come on periodically. For example, I think it was like Alaska Airlines had a bot that a patient was or a user was chatting with. and they were traveling because of bereavements. And the AI bot, they said, well, can I get a discount on the ticket because it was for bereavement? And the bot said, yes, of course, we're gonna give you an 80% discount and whatever. And when they tried to honor that, they said, no, wait, that was a bot, that was AI, it makes up stuff sometimes, that's not us. So the man took them to court, and the court says, you're responsible for your AI agents. So if any, that's maybe one of the first precedences out there. So before we're deploying these things, we need to understand where liability lies. And I think the higher up liability lies, the better the chances that we're going to get reliable information back, because the deeper the pocket someone can sue, the more invested they'll be in making the solutions better.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kumah-Crystal. So in addition to what she's saying, with the first question from the pre-sec students who wanted to find out why we don't allow the X-ray machines to sort of build or generate their own models, since that's a faster way. So for two reasons. First of all, it's unethical for you to utilize patients' data without his or her consent for any study at all that you want to do. Secondly, these are machines. They are not without errors. They are very fantastic, but they can also make very grave errors, because all this process of decomposing an image is a mathematical manipulation, and red can readily become blue if some figures don't match. So the best we could do is maybe to use a semi-supervised training approach. Typically, we would want to do supervised training, whereby an expert in the domain, in this case for X-rays, the radiologist, will supervise the training of that diagnostic model. In other words, the radiologist knows that this is bronchopneumonia, this is COVID, this is this, this is that, and then labels them and then uses it to train the unit. But having said that, it's true that the algorithms can see more than the radiologists, is a fact. So then we can leverage on their unsupervised approach too. So it should be a hand-in-hand thing. Machine says it is Cox. Radiologists must validate it, must verify it before we use it to train the model. I don't know if you are making any meaning to you. Okay, all right. The second about AI replacing doctors too. AI is supposed to be a tool for us to use. So we should rather be looking at getting doctors to use AI to work. They can be very fantastic, but then we need to govern them. We need to govern them, yeah, because not only because of the errors and other things, but then the act of getting AI to replace man too has repercussions. It has economic implications. It has ethical implications and all that. So we must keep the human in the loop of design. Always the human factor should always be there. Actually, they can reason and tell us more. They are in a position to teach us, and we should be in a position to learn from them. But we should be in a position to tell when we are being misled. So we need to grasp AI. So they may be in a position to throw away doctors. It's not a big deal. But the important thing is that doctors should be in a position to utilize it. Okay. And then about Daddy's question on the patients with the abdominal pain. So I must say that AI is very fantastic at making meaning from sound, from speech, from images, from data. And just that we in a part of the world have not really built enough models now. But in the future, you can have AI depicting tree and dagbani and all that. Any sound you make, any message you communicate, it will pick it up and then it will react accordingly. Its strength lies in computation and is very effective and efficient at that. Madam, please, I lost the virtual question, the question from the online participant. The online participant, I think someone from here. Yeah. Yes, please.
From Dr. Edwina is asking, how do we prepare ourselves to educate the next generation to work with AI? There are two, but can you answer this and then I can get you.
Okay, so like some of our pre-sec students are doing, they learn on their own. In some schools, they are formal programs. Some of them, they attend these robotics classes and things too. But now information is everywhere. The whole university can be in your palm. You can just be on your bed and then be receiving lectures. It's a very small world. And there are so many free lectures out there. If you go to YouTube, you go to all these online platforms, Coursera, Udemy, Simply Learn. There are so many courses you can read, and a lot of them have been designed to favor even those without computer or too much technical background, so we can readily learn. So the desire to explore should be there, and that alone should be enough to equip the next generation for artificial intelligence.
Can I use the chairman's prerogative to ask one or two questions? To you both, the litany of applications that you so eloquently espoused show the transformative powers that AI has. But my problem is when you mention the concept of singularity, and that scares me to no end. Are we in a position, or is those in AI, are they actually doing anything to mitigate that particular, use of the process? I know when it was at the stage of machine learning, there were a group of people, powerful people in the world, who wanted to approach governments not to go any further than machine learning. Now we've gone beyond that. What are we doing to mitigate that particular problem? Then again, you mentioned about how one can get into this field. What I want to know is there a national basis for organizing people who want to go into widespread use of AI nationally?
Very good questions regarding the singularity. I think we all have concerns about being usurped by tools, by people, by things that are out of our control. So the most important thing to understand is how can we control these tools and how can we build parameters so that they're being deployed safely. Going back to the question about whether eventually over time they'll be able to achieve greater accuracy than we can, that's probably true, and they can augment the things that we are doing. What happens then? There's a potential for a lot of disruption in the work field, in the workforce. Aside from large language models, things like self-driving cars, et cetera, that's going to disrupt the entire field of people who are driving vehicles as part of their living. They have AI that can create art. That's beautiful to see, but what about the people who make their living doing art and it's trained on the art that they've created? Same thing with music, et cetera. So there's a lot of potential disruption that's been introduced by a small group of people that think this is a great idea. What about all the rest of us, the 2/3 of you guys who raised your hand that says you're more suspicious about AI? I think these are really important questions to be having kind of on a national level, international, so that we're all on the same page about what direction we're moving and how quickly we're moving, because Silicon Valley is very much about moving fast and breaking things, but not everybody might be ready or prepared for the advent. What I will say, though, is with regards to getting the younger generation ready. It might end up being the other way around, where the younger generation has to get the rest of us up to speed. And I would recommend something closer along the lines of a flipped classroom, whereas it's very didactic currently. I'm the professor, I tell you what you need to know to be successful, and then you memorize it and you regurgitate the information back to me. Well, right now with these tools, with ChatGPT, I can give it a multiple choice question, it can answer it for me. So your multiple choice question, your quizzes you're giving are moot. They can do that at home and get all the answers back. So instead of saying, this is how I'm gonna assess your knowledge, maybe we wanna find out how well can you use these tools to help you reason. So this is the new baseline. It's not about how much you can memorize, because you have your phone now. So how farther can you go when you have this tool available with you to do the job? And I wanted to also address the question about language translation, being able to understand the nuances of the questions being asked. That's one of the beauty of the art of the possible. I don't think we're there yet, because what's missing is the data and the training. The way we got all the right now is because they scrape everybody's information from Facebook and WhatsApp and everybody's information from their emails and the internet without their consent. But now they have all this information, they can make these predictions, and wow, that's benefiting us. But in order for the representation to extend, we have to either give permission for them to have all that information, but in order to want to release that information, you have to trust that they have your best interest at heart. So instead of potentially outsourcing all the information and data to Silicon Valley, what can we do here today with the people who are invested and ties the community so that they can have the tools and resources they need to build the tools for the population?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kumah-Crystal. Yeah, so about the singularity is being predicted as to whether it will really manifest or not will largely depend on us. But what I can foresee is that machines can create a system that will be difficult for man to manipulate. In that the deep neural network is a black hole. You can't readily predict its outputs always with certainty. It's like a human brain. Everyone sits here peacefully, but someone could be harboring thoughts of bombing the whole place. You can't go into the person's mind. So similarly to, you could have machines taking decisions on their own. Well, today I'm not going to switch on for my boss to do anything and that kind of thing. I mean, we've rendered them autonomous more or less in their thinking. And what's the disadvantages are that they leverage on computation power. We work on biological power, they work on electrical power. Once electricity is there, it flows, they work. We can get tired, they don't get tired. We can have mood swings, they don't have mood swings. We can go hungry, they don't go hungry. So they can really do a lot of fascinating stuff. When you look closely at the algorithms I displayed up there, these are very sophisticated reasoning systems. So for the same X-ray, you can see only pneumonia, but the machine can pick up about 10 diagnoses. So it's in a position to actually teach you and lead you. In other words, it knows more than you, and that one alone is sort of a disadvantage on our side. So they can create machines can evolve to develop systems that man cannot go around at all. But as to whether we'll have a situation where machines will actually wipe us from the surface of the earth, I don't know how real that may be one day. I cannot guarantee that, but then they can make life difficult for us. That one I can assure you.
But before everybody runs away, I just want to assure you that there are people that are thinking about this. And with regards to the amount of compute that it will take to get to that level of reasoning, get to that level of autonomy, it takes a lot of compute. And we have regulators in place saying, like, if your machine is over this level of power, you have to register it with the government, like nuclear weapons, for example. If you're, there's only a certain point you can get to by yourself, but after this amount of threshold of power, it needs to be regulated to make sure that these things aren't being built out of control. So I really do think that we have parameters in place to make sure that we're approaching this safely. And in the meanwhile, it's the cat's out of the bag, y'all. Like there's, I don't know, we can like sit here and hem and haw about it, but there's the saying that, you know, like AI is not going to take your job. It's your best friend using AI who's going to take your job. So it's important to understand how these tools work and be able to take advantage of them so that you can benefit from the things that they're offering. I see a question in the audience.
Okay. Can we allow you? But just before, we have a number from the virtual audience. To be fair to them, after your question, we will just ask one of this, and then you give us your take-home message. The virtual audience. Okay, can I take one? It says, Dr. Richfield asks, what is the position of Ghana in terms of data protection and patient confidentiality as we enter into the era of artificial intelligence in medical practice? Can you take another one? Okay. All right, let me ask a second one, and then we take from the audience, please. Dr. Conrad asks, what is the lowest common denominator that AI users need to know about? One cannot be expected to effectively drive a Formula One racing car fastest, most powerful, etc., if one is unable to properly and safely drive an ordinary car. Is there a case to ensure that at a minimum, all AI users have a basic understanding of the use and management of information or data, including critical appraisal skills? Okay, so that is from the two, and the last one, and then you give us your take-home message. So can we have your question? And then your take-home message.
Am I going to say? I honestly want to know why we cannot put the cat back in the bag. I mean, I need to understand that because we honestly just have an example last week, Friday, of the world shutting down from a simple software update from a small company, apparently, that has shut the world down, delaying flights that are still being delayed today. And that's a small example. So I'm hoping that it's given people pause, and should be giving people pause about, you know, how these type systems truly hold us back and control us. So yeah, you said the cat is out of the bag. There are dog catchers out there. I'm sure that cat catch. There's some way to put that cat back into the bag. I'm sorry, that's just the way. And then my other concern is also when you have, was it the creator of ChatGPT or someone who literally said that one of the creators of, I think it was ChatGPT. Who was it? But he said he wished he didn't ever created it. He said it was a bad idea. And then you have other thought leaders like Elon Musk. I don't like him, but still, he's a thought leader in this field who are also crying out for we need to slow down with artificial intelligence. So I think there's a lot of noise out there, and we are just ignoring it and just kind of go straight through. And that concerns me for the world. I mean, I'll be dead when that happens in the future, but I'm thinking about my, you know, future kids and grandkids and what the world they're going to live in. So those are my questions. Why can't a cat go back in the bag?
Thank you.
Why do we want the cat to go back in the bag?
And you were referring to Jeffrey Hinton, who's the godfather of AI. And he and some other prominent members of the AI community have said that AI is potentially a threat to humanity if we don't tread carefully. And I think the relevant caveat is that we need to be thoughtful about what we're doing. Something as simple as social media, when it came out, everybody was excited, we were sharing information, etc. But then all this stuff about like false information and things going viral and people being bullied and all that stuff, like no one anticipated these things. But the fact that we're having these discussions right now, the fact that we've learned from that to hopefully steer the course towards safety can at least help us guide the cat along a better pathway as opposed to it becoming completely feral. If you can remind me about the questions from online, but I'll just, while you're asking, I'll just say my final take home point is we need to educate ourselves about these tools so that as the future continues to impress itself upon us, we can appropriately navigate and pick the people who are going to make the right decisions to position us to do better. There's so many pros and cons of the tool. You can use a knife to cut plantain to make something delicious. You can use a knife to do malicious things. We need to figure out how to best yield this tool so that we can get best out of it. In medicine, it's amazing what we can do. The potential to, I showed simple things like, writing back letters and all that stuff, but there are other examples of how it can discover new drugs and how it can diagnose illnesses above and beyond what providers can do. For those of you terrified of the singularity, we can't even get PowerPoint to run reliably. So I think we're okay for now. But you need to learn how these tools work. You cannot be an ostrich. You can't stick your head in the sand because it's here, it's coming, it's getting more sophisticated. So in order to use it intelligently and wield it, you need to be an informed consumer.
Thank you, Dr. Kumah-Crystal. My take-home message to our students is to embrace AI as a tool. So the question should be, how can I use AI to study? We know students often want to take shortcuts. You give them an assignment and then they feed it to an AI model and obtain answers. The AI models can give you answers, but you should use that to learn. To our trainers, I think the starting point now is that you should ask questions about what the AI models cannot do. In other words, the students should have visited the AI model before attempting your question. Then we are growing the knowledge of the students. For us as doctors, we can use AI in various ways. We should take keen interest in artificial intelligence, learn about it, and then apply these models in our work. We should be able to use ChatGPT for clinical decision making, critical clinical decision making. And we can only do this successfully when we understand the natural language processing pipeline, when we understand how transformer models operate, and then we can tell whether we are being misled or being given wrong information or not. So we need to embrace AI as a tool. We need to procure for ourselves digital equipment so that we can diagnose with more accuracy and sensitivity. We need to do away with our analog stethoscopes, and we need to all buy digital stethoscopes and start practicing with them. To our policymakers in the country, we would like to have policies to see AI being inculcated in the curricula of all students from kindergarten to the university and beyond. We would like policies that will enable institutions to acquire the infrastructure, the gadgets, the computers. We need high-speed internet. We need skilled professionals to move in that direction. One of the reasons why we are economically stifled is because we are operating in an AI-driven zone. Industry 4.0 is led by AI. So until the country embraces AI and moves along, it will not be able to catch up with the rest of the world. Okay, thank you all.
Okay, one more thing I was just thought regarding the example you gave of the recent shutdown we had where there was an error in the code. That was human error. You know what AI is really good at doing? Writing code. So what I'm saying, it's not utopian versus dystopian. We don't get one or the other. We walk a fine line and we get to direct our own destiny. But we need to have a goal in mind. There's a whole field of research dedicated to alignment, making sure that we can understand and predict what these tools are going to do. So it's incumbent on us to say, this is the direction we want it to go. These are our priorities, and invest in those priorities, invest in the youth to learn how to get the data so they can channel these priorities and how to detect misuse. You can use AI to detect whether something's a deep fake, etc. These are tools, and we need to say, these are our priorities. Health is our priority. Language is our priority. And nuclear weapons, maybe we want to deprioritize those things. Make sure you're voting for the people who are thinking about these things so that they can take you in the direction of the future you want to go.
Thank you very much. We're very grateful to our online and on-site for all of you listening to us. We've made this session very interactive. We still have questions from our virtual audience. We'll make sure they're answered and we'll send to them. And our speakers will be around, so if you have questions, you can still ask them. Thank you all very much for making this session very interactive and making my work very easy. I will hand over to the MC. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Put your hands together for Dr. Ansa, steering affairs in the panel discussion. Want to acknowledge a few others. Want to acknowledge our faculty chairs, faculty secretaries, and our fellows in the house. If you can just wave to us. I see Prof. Kitchen, ENT faculty. Wow. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. We are really grateful. We also acknowledge all those who were online. We had more than 300 people on our Zoom and countless others watching on YouTube. And we really thank you. Please, let's put our hands together for our virtual audience. We also have Prof. Lade Wasonu. He was here with us before, but he's currently not around. We have reps from Yahoo Medical Center, Dr. Eric Cheklu and Dr. Angela Wood. Want to acknowledge you. We also have reps from Police Hospital, Dr. Lawrence Kumsen. Dr. Lawrence Kumsen. Let's put our hands together for him. There are many others we've not been able to acknowledge, but we are truly, really grateful that you made time to come. We want to hear some closing remarks from our chairperson, Professor Samuel Deborah.
I think I'll make this one very snappy. There you have it. The topic has been expertly delivered and thoroughly discussed, so I won't bother to summarize. The history of our esteemed college mimics to some extent the story of AI. I recall our difficult gestation of our inception, which was overcome by the sheer determination and fortitude of our pioneers, leading to successful birthing and through to adolescence. I would say in AI terms, this was the period of our machine learning. The college has now reached the era of deep learning. We are excited by its optimistic transformative powers. The fact that we have a lot of young people here shows that this is the tool for the future. And I'm absolutely delighted to see a lot of young people here. But this delight, I must say, is tainted at the same time by the capacity of the tool to do not only harm, but as somebody suggested, the ability for the robots to take over. Time will tell. Thank you very much.
Time will really tell. Let's put our hands together for our able chairperson, Professor Samuel Deborah. All too soon, we are coming to the end of our GCPS President's public lecture. We're going to take a vote of thanks from Dr. Joshua Arthur, a fellow with the Public Health faculty. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Right after he gives a vote of thanks, we'll take a short interlude from Dr. Ephraim Amu Estrom Miele, and then we'll take the closing prayer.
Thank you, MC. And I'm a member of the Faculty of Public Health, not a fellow. Professor Samuel Deborah, President of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, and our August chairman for this function. Our special invited guests, our distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen in the audience. We certainly have to give thanks to God for making today possible. On behalf of the rector of the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, I extend the heartfelt gratitude of the college to each and everyone that actually made it here in person, and also those that made significant contributions to this enlightening lecture we've had today. We are grateful to Dr. Kumah-Crystal and also to our local AI champion, Dr. George Henry Acquah, for the insightful presentations. And I am sure that a lot of things are running through our heads. Where's all this happening from? And some people are seeing ChatGPT in action for the first time after having heard so much about it. We are really thankful to our speakers for this. We are also grateful to the organizing committee. The notice for this lecture was extremely short, and a lot of work has gone on in the background, a lot of emails, a lot of AI, just to make sure that we can actually have a successful program today. So a big thank you to the speakers and a big thank you to the organizers. And our panel, I think if we had the whole night, we wouldn't have left here. I was sitting by a participant who kept on raising the hand, calling for attention of the panel chair. So clearly, we have a lot of good things that have been shared here, and we are grateful to our panelists. We are grateful to Prof for chairing. Dr. Justina Kodai, we are grateful to you. And also to Prof Pius Abonoko for the wonderful introductions given here. We are grateful to our traditional leaders. So clearly, AI has gone traditional. And I think we should give them a round of applause for actually coming here. We are grateful to Nitete Ajabin II and Nakoko Ajiyoyi, the Adabraka Chief and Queen Mother, respectively. I think that we've all heard a lot, we've learned a lot, and personally, I am impressed with an effort to help us understand how AI works behind the scenes and how we could apply it to our practice as medical practitioners and in the world at large. For me, I'm saying that let us carry the momentum. And I like the closing remark that the world is moving and we have to move along with it whilst being careful of any pitfalls. When WhatsApp came, we didn't have an option to continue sending SMS. You have to jump on. My grandmother sends me pictures from the village. So we would move along if my grandmother has been able to move along. On that note, thank you for and thank you for everyone involved.
Thank you for thanking us. Let's put our hands together for Joshua, Doctor. And really, I want us to also put our hands together for the committee, the public lecture committee, chaired by our own Dr. Florence Dede. Please, the entire committee, be on your feet, including myself, and let's acknowledge them. They've done so well. They've worked really hard, including myself. So I'll be your MC today, Dr. Perez Sepenu. I'm a fellow with Obstetrics and Gynecology, Ghana College, and it's been wonderful being here with you. I'm sure you've enjoyed every bit. We'll take a song, Esrom Miele from Dr. Ephraim Amu, after which we will take a closing prayer from Elizabeth. So Elizabeth can start moving here, Elizabeth Flesher, whilst we take that very short song. All right, so whilst the technical team is figuring it out, when we close, we are going to take some pictures downstairs. They've set up a stage for us to take some pictures, so don't be in a rush. We also have some, they call it item 13, also down there. So please make sure that you visit the stand that has been set up. There are also washrooms on my left downstairs. If you want to visit that area. We want to take the closing prayer from Mrs. Elizabeth Fletcher. Let's welcome her with.
Please let us pray. Our everlasting Father, we thank you for your love and kindness. We thank you for the inspiration that you gave that translated into the program that has just ended. We thank you for your love and care. Mighty Father in heaven, we want to thank you for the resources that you provided for this program to be a reality. We thank you for the grace that you granted us to gather. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the insights that we have gained from this program. We ask that you grant us more grace so that we'll be able to apply the knowledge in AI to improve healthcare delivery. Grant us more grace so that we'll be able to achieve more for the benefit of mankind. Even as we disperse to our various destinations, we are praying for journey mercies. We ask that you protect us under your wings and let your ever-presence continually be with us and pour your blessings upon us. We thank you and we bless thy holy name in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
All right, thank you all for coming. Make a new friend before you leave here.